I'm sure you have faced a few times in your life, sometimes it's a few times a day, that you have a certain desire or a certain lust, and you don't know how to control it. And in many of the cases, I was joking by saying a few times in your life, it's usually a few times a day, that your desire for something, or you lust something, or a certain craving, or a certain passion, and you can't control it. And it has you under control. As I mentioned many times, that when I became observant, when I started to become observant, I figured out that if I will be a slave to anything, then I can't be a slave to God. So if I used to smoke cigarettes at the time, and if I'm being controlled by the cigarette, that the cigarette tells me when I need to smoke, then I can't be a slave to God. I can't have something controlling me. I need to control everything. To a certain extent, of course. Now, when you're thinking about it, the body that we're in is basically everything. Without a body, I can't function in this world. I mean, I need a body in this world. So in one way, the body is everything. But on the other hand, the body is very weak to different desires. And it can be cigarettes, can be food, can be marital relations, can be any type of physical pleasure. Many different things. Each person has their weaknesses. And the result is constant battle. So if a person is a smoker, then, and let's say they don't have in their mind how bad it is, then it's a constant battle. I want to quit, I have to, I want to quit, I'm trying. It can be with a person trying to lose weight, it can be with a person that has different desires and things that are forbidden, and the constant battle, how do I get rid of it? And a fight, and back and forth, and back and forth. So comes a very big question that we'll discuss this in this class, is how do you deal with such a thing? How do you deal with your desires, with your passions, with your lusts? How do you put them under control instead of them controlling you? So the short answer of this question is that you just need to talk to the desire. You have to approach it. You can't just leave it alone. Saying in other words, you have to satisfy the desire. You can't put the desire on a diet, right? It's not going to work. Some people try to cut it off. It doesn't work. And again, everything that I'm saying now is very general. We're going to go into the class and discuss it more in depth. But the way to do it is that you have to satisfy the desire. But now you have to do it in a very smart way. Now, what is the gain if I'm able to do such a thing? Is that I'm able to fix the desire and not to run away from it. If you're trying to run, if you think that if you're going to run away from it, that will be the answer, no. You need to fix the desire. Better to fix something than to try to ignore it. And the trick here is not so simple. So we're going to approach this in this week's class. Besides that, this is a topic that can be addressed at any week, any time, not just to this week's parasha. But in this week's parasha, we're starting a new book, the book of Shemot, told different era in our history. The book of Bereshit, we went through the creation of the world in the beginning of our nation. The book of Bereshit is more stories. Avram went here, Yaakov went there, Yitzchak did this, Yosef did that. And now we're starting a brand new era, putting everything behind, and we're finding ourselves as a nation in slavery. We are slaves in Mitzrayim. The situation is very bad. The exile is severe. And thank God, our prayers were answered. I'm saying our, as I'm talking about our nation, our ancestors. And Moshe Rabbeinu is being appointed to go to Mitzrayim and to save the day. That's briefly the story of the parasha. That the older generation died, the king in Mitzrayim changed, which is irrelevant if it's the same king and changed his mind, or a different king per se, which our sages discuss. Is it really a different king? Or maybe the king died and there's a different king, or it's the same king that just changed his approach. The older generation died, Yosef died, the Shvatim died. Okay, now there's nobody here that I need to give any respect or account, and I'm going to now change the rules. It's irrelevant at this point. The point that we need to take is that we as a nation find ourselves in exile in Mitzrayim, in Egypt as slaves. The situation becomes very, very severe, and God decides to send a savior, and he comes and appoints Moshe Rabbeinu after the encounter with revealing himself. And then a little story happens that many people just go through the parasha and maybe ignore it or don't give it to any importance. But it says that Moshe Rabbeinu had a child, and right after that they go to Mitzrayim. And the transportation that Moshe Rabbeinu chooses to take is a very odd type of transportation. He takes a donkey. Now, you would think that the master of the universe appoints a man to become the savior of this nation, to take the nation out of Egypt, in order to give them the Torah. So this entire encounter is going to change the face of humanity and the face of this world completely. Now, wouldn't you think that it would be appropriate that Moshe Rabbeinu goes with ministers behind him, bodyguards, riding on horses, entering into Mitzrayim? This is an epic event. And Moshe Rabbeinu decides to take a donkey, put his wife that just had a baby on the donkey with the baby, and let's go to Mitzrayim. Now, in general, one can stop here and say, what's the Torah have with all these donkeys? All the time, every time there's something happens, there's a donkey involved. The first time we read about a donkey involved in an epic encounter is with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu goes to put his son on the altar, an event that changed the entire world till today, that affected us up until today, and Avraham Avinu rides on a donkey. The next event that we find in the Torah, of course, is this, that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to save the world. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to change the world, and instead of going with an entourage of important VIPs riding on horses and carriages and coming in a very impressive way, he goes on a donkey. And of course, as our sages taught us, that the last epic event, the coming of Mashiach, is going to be that Mashiach is riding a donkey. He's not coming in a BMW, he's not coming with a Mercedes, he's going to come on a donkey. We'll talk about that very soon. And there are some other encounters in the Torah with donkeys. When Bilam comes to curses the nation, he comes with a donkey. That one might ask, or I would say instead of asking, one might acknowledge the fact that every time that there's an important mission, a donkey is involved. Okay? Avraham Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, Mashiach. So one might say, you know what, I am noticing here that every time that something epic is going to happen, a donkey is there. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes to redeem the nation of Israel. And like I told you, the preparation for the giving of the Torah, something that is going to change the face of humanity forever. And it's very hard to ignore the fact that I would think that Moshe Rabbeinu would go with a very honorable, respectful committee. You're coming to approach Paro. It's almost like now saying, I'm going to talk to Putin. I'm going to talk now with a world leader. And now I'm coming with a donkey. So Rashi explains, yeah, we do like donkeys. We love donkeys. The first time we see it is with the Akedah, with Avraham Avinu, then with Moshe Rabbeinu, then with Mashiach. And like I told you, with Bilam, even though with Bilam it wasn't a donkey as the Torah says, chamor, it says aton. Aton is a female donkey. Now when you're thinking about it, that Moshe Rabbeinu chooses this to be his transportation, that's another odd approach. First of all, a donkey is very slow. The Master of the Universe tells you to go and redeem the nation. Take a horse, ride like a fireball into Mitzrayim. You know, like a donkey is like barely moving. More than that, Moshe Rabbeinu takes his wife and puts her on the donkey that she just had birth, just gave birth to their son Eliezer. Now we don't know the other son Gershom, how old he is. Doesn't indicate how old he is. Might be 2 years old, maybe 3, maybe 4. He's not 17. And one might even stop to think, isn't that a little bit like embarrassing? You're putting your wife on a donkey? Put your wife on something more respectful. Put her on a carriage. Get a horse, you have some money. Buy a horse, put a carriage, put her on a carriage. You're putting your wife on a donkey with a newborn? I don't know, this whole story, and like I told you, many just read it and pass through it. Stop for a second and think, I don't understand. This is the leader of the world, Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's your choice of transportation, and you're putting your wife, I mean, not so clear. Last week I told you about a story about a certain king, Talmai HaMelech. Remember? Hopefully you remember. If you forgot it from last week, situation is not that good. In Tractate Megillah, page 9a, there's a story about a Greek king, Talmai, who was very wise. He had a lot of wise advisors, but he wanted to learn the Torah. So he gathered 70 elderlies of the nation of Israel, and he told them, I want you to translate the Torah. Right? I told you this story last week. But he knew that the Jews, that was his approach. I'm not necessarily saying that that's the truth. But he had the approach that you can't trust the Jews. I wonder why, but he separated all 70 elderlies, all 70 wise men into 70 different rooms because he did not want them to sit together and maybe they'll change a little bit the Torah so it will sound a little bit better. And he wanted to get the real deal. So he took all these 70 sages, separated them in rooms, and told each one of them translate the Torah into Greek. And like I told you, the reason he wanted to do it, he didn't want them to start changing the Torah. So there are 13 or 14 parts in the Torah that don't sound good. If you remember last week, I told you that how does the Torah start? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim. In the beginning, Bereshit means in the beginning, Elokim bara et hashamayim et haaretz. If you would read it in not knowing who's Bereshit, one might say, oh, Bereshit is a God. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim. Bereshit created Elokim. And one might come and say, oh, maybe Bereshit doesn't mean in the beginning. Maybe Bereshit is the name of a God, and he created Elokim. So they all changed it. They all had Ruach HaKodesh, somehow a miracle. All 70 men changed these places the same. So they changed it to Elokim bara Bereshit. God created in the beginning, instead of the beginning God created. So one of the things that they changed is the whole thing with the donkey. They did not want Talmai to think that we rode on a donkey. So in this encounter, instead of writing that Moshe Rabbeinu put his wife on the donkey, he says, Vayarkivem lenose Adam. That they rode on a human carrier. Something that carries a human. And they all change it the same, that it will all fit. So even they understood that it's not respectful or not honorable to ride on the donkey. It's a slow animal, dirty animal. And it's, kings, royalty, army, they all use horses. They don't use donkeys. Donkeys, it's not the best choice of transportation. So, what is the Torah trying to tell me? That before coming to a state of redemption, a donkey is involved. Right? Because Avraham bought some type of redemption to the world with the sacrifice of Yitzchak. Moshe Rabbeinu brought redemption to the nation of Israel, which in fact brought redemption to the entire world. He brought the Torah. The Torah, as I mentioned many times, is not copyrighted to the nation of Israel. It doesn't belong only to the nation of Israel. The Torah belongs to God, and it's for everybody. So by giving the Torah, the whole world changed and was elevated to a state of redemption. And the last Redeemer, Mashiach ben David, will redeem the entire world, not only the nation of Israel. And again, we see the donkey involved. So one might take from that before a redemption has to be a donkey involved. Maybe we should buy a donkey. Maybe we should now go and invest in some donkeys, spread them out in the streets. I don't know. Maybe that will hasten the redemption. Now, interestingly, now let's focus on the donkey for a second, okay? Because that's a major part of the story of this week's parasha. Not necessarily the slavery, not the encounter of God and Moshe Rabbeinu, not the negotiation with Paro and Moshe. Is the choice of transportation that Moshe goes down to Mitzrayim, because he lived in Midian. He was doing good. He lived in West Palm Beach. He had a yacht. Everything was fine. And God tells him, no, go down from your status and go down to Mitzrayim, to a place of filth, or one might say a place and the unknown is waiting for you. So the choice that Moshe Rabbeinu has, that's we have to stop for a second. Now, interestingly, if you're looking at the donkey in the Torah, the donkey gets promoted. Okay, there's some type of progress in the donkey. It's advanced, because in the beginning, Avraham doesn't ride the donkey. He just puts the saddle on him. He just puts the saddle on the donkey, and he doesn't ride on the donkey. Ishmael and Yitzchak don't ride on the donkey. So maybe he took the donkey to take some, some type of load. Or maybe in case they get tired, they jump on the donkey. But the donkey was saddled and on the way. Moshe already used the donkey to carry his wife and children. Moshe didn't ride the donkey, only the wife, only Tzipora, and Gershom and Eliezer, the mother and the two kids. So we see the donkey now is already carrying. In the beginning he was just saddled, now he's already carrying people. But the last encounter with Mashiach is already riding on the donkey. So the status of the donkey goes and progresses, becomes a much better donkey. There's a question if it's the same donkey. The big question in Chazal, is the donkey that Avraham Avinu riding, is that the donkey that Moshe Rabbeinu rode? And more interesting, is that the donkey that Mashiach is going to ride? Rashi says it's the same donkey. That's a 3,000-year-old donkey. Somewhere in Yerushalayim, there's a stable with a very old, no, not a Gilgul. Rashi says it's the same donkey. So that means, if we make a quick calculation, about 3,700-year-old donkey. That's a pretty old donkey. He has to be somewhere. Have you seen an old donkey lately? Maybe we find the donkey, I don't know. Maybe that's where the secret lies. But according to Rashi, it's the same donkey. So, if this is the same donkey, must be A, a very old donkey, B, a very special donkey. So let's go a little bit into the sources. In a book, a very famous book, I mentioned that book many times. If you are here, one of the pioneers, then once we used to learn this book every Shabbat morning before Shacharit, Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? In this book, Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, he says something very interesting. This donkey is a son of a very important donkeynet. Okay? Who's this donkeynet that this donkey is the son of? That's the famous Aton, the donkey that Bilam rode on to come and curse the nation of Israel. But that's a few years later. So who's this? I'm joking, Donkinet, of course. Don't think I'm just trying to make it humor. Who's this donkey that is so important, a female donkey that Bil'am rode on, that the Torah calls her Aton, that the donkey of Abraham, Moshe, and Mashiach is the son of that donkey. So, if you're familiar with Tractate Avot in the Mishnah, the ethics of the fathers, it says that 10 things were created in the twilight time in Ben Hashmashot, right before Shabbat on the 6th day of creation, right? Because on the first day of creation, light and darkness, right? And second day, Shamayim va'aretz, the heaven and the earth. And third and fourth, the luminaries, the trees, the animals. So on the morning of the 6th day, the animals were created. In the middle day, the midday of Friday, Adam and Chava are created. But in the twilight time, meaning already Ben Hashmashot, 10 things were created. Please open the Ethics of the Fathers, Tractate Avot, and see what it says there. So it says 10 things were created. The mateh, the staff of Moshe Rabbeinu, the man, the food that was fed in the desert, Shamir. Shamir is not the Prime Minister of Israel from the 80s. Shamir is a little worm that when Shlomo HaMelech needed to build Bet HaMikdash, you're not allowed to break the stones of Bet HaMikdash with metal. Right? Lo lanifchar becha al mizbachecha. You're not allowed to take metal and put it on a stone that will serve as a temple. Have you been to the Kotel lately? Did you see the size of these stones? They're massive. Not only how they carried them, how did they cut them? So there's a story in the Talmud that Shlomo HaMelech needed to figure out a way. To make a very long story short, he figured out that there's a certain worm called Shamir, and that worm is the worm that will crack the stones precisely in half. They went to different ministers till they found the minister of the ocean who told them where they can find the worm. They brought the worm, and that worm, the worm would just put its hands or whatever on the stone and crack the stone in half, but like a knife. So that's one of the things that were created Ben Hashmashot. But what was created Ben Hashmashot? Pia Aton, the donkey that Bil'am rode on. Now you know what that means? That means this donkey is immortal. Because the curse of death came on Adam and Chava prior. So what was created after is not cursed with death. Now the story is, by the way, many don't know, Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, right? And the prohibition was, if you eat from the tree of knowledge, you're going to die. So Chava knew she's about to die. So she said, listen, if I die and my man stays alive, he'll marry another woman. Adam, come here for a second. Here, taste this. If I die, everything goes down. Instead of saying, okay, I'll die. I made the boo-boo. Let him live and he'll marry another woman. She says, no. If I go down, everything goes down. So the Midrash says clearly that Chava fed everything, including the animals. So everybody was cursed with death. But the Aton was created Ben Hashmashot in the twilight time. In the few minutes before the sun sets and the stars going out. So the Aton is immortal. It doesn't have the curse of death. Therefore, she gave birth to a donkey, and that donkey is immortal. That donkey is a 3,700 and plus, probably more, because it doesn't say Avraham Avinu had him as a little, maybe that donkey goes back all the way to the days of creation. But this is an immortal donkey that lives up until today. Wow. Very powerful. On this note, I will add another thing because it also is very well connected. If you want to go to the source, go to Midrash Rabbah, chapter 19, chapter 19, part 5. That's where it's talking about this entire encounter. And it says that there's another animal that is like that donkey. It's called the bird of the sand, or thank you very much, the phoenix. I mean, the Torah doesn't call it the phoenix. It calls it of hachol. But it's talking about this bird. People think phoenix is a Christian mythological animal. It's not. It's a certain bird that was also created after the curse of death. It just says, the Midrash says, how it covers itself with sand, it buries itself in the sand, so it will seem like it doesn't exist, and every 1,000 years it moves away its wings and pushes away the sand and shows its existence. The Midrash says our nation is compared to this bird because we're always being covered with ashes, trying to kill us, burn us to the ground, and then it seems like we disappeared off the face of the earth, and then we move away our wings and brush off all the dirt, and here we are again. So 9 years ago we were almost all ashes, and we spread our wings, and here we are again, we're here to stay. So in this Midrash, it's talking about this another animal, it's talking about the phoenix, and again, it doesn't say the word phoenix, this is ofachol, the bird of the sand, but nevertheless, there were certain creations after the curse of Adam HaRishon. What does that mean? That the curse doesn't fall on them. The donkey was created ben hashmashot, so this donkey is still alive. So what do we take from that? That the donkey is a big part of the redemption. Now, when you're thinking about the redemption, the last thing you think about is a donkey. So, when I was young, there was a joke, not a nice joke, but I'll tell it. They started bringing into Israel foreign workers many, many years ago. So they brought different workers from different countries, and one of the workers came from Thailand. And they start catching them, eating the animals. They would take dogs and things and eat them. So somebody once came and says, do you know why the Mashiach didn't come yet? He said, why? In Thailand they made his donkey. So, sorry for the joke, but where's Mashiach? Are we depending on a donkey? Like, what's halting the Geula? A donkey? Mashiach has to ride on a donkey? How come Mashiach is not coming with a private jet? Or at least a nice BMW. Chamor in Hebrew, a donkey in Hebrew is chamor. In many of the places in the Torah, it's written without a vav. Just chet, mem, reish, which can even easily be read as chomer. And chomer is materialism. Chomer is something, some type of a material. When Mashiach is going to come riding on the chamor, he's going to ride on the materialism. Now, I'm not taking out the words out of context by saying he might come on a chamor. I'm not saying that might not be the option. Because Rashi says very clearly, you can't take the simple explanation from the text from its context. So maybe he will ride on the chamor. But when it says that Mashiach is going to be coming riding on a donkey, riding on a chamor, it means that Mashiach is going to have 100% control over materialism. The redemption is going to bring the chamor, the chomer, with all its desires, all the lusts, all the passions to physical things. Saying, in other words, that all these desires that we have is part of our spiritual growth in order to bring the redemption. Now, we have a general redemption of the entire world, and it has my personal redemption. But with no doubt, the chamor, the chomer, the materialism, who is connected very well and strong to my physical desires, because I don't have lust to go and pray, and I don't have a desire to learn Torah. Some people do. I'm talking about, this is where the words in English don't work very well, because the word that we're using in Hebrew is ta'ava. Like Chava looked at the tree of knowledge, it says was ta'ava la'inayim. It was a lust to the eyes. She couldn't help herself, like walking, like a woman walking on Fifth Avenue, and she sees Fendi, whatever it is, Louis Vuitton, going into the store. That's times that 1,000,000. What Chava looked at the tree of knowledge, she couldn't control herself. So to say desire, it's not really a strong word. But nevertheless, the desires that we have are all connected to some type of physical thing. Usually the desires, okay, one might say I have a desire for something that is not physically, but why do we run after desires? Because physically it gives me some type of pleasure. So when we're talking about fighting my desires and this entire problem, then there are 3 ways how I deal with it. The first way is to give in and say, I can't fight the desires, let me just enjoy it. If you can fight them, join them. So I have desires to eat, to procreate, marital relations, fun, whatever. Listen, I can't fight it. I just give up, or one should say, give in. Let me just enjoy. I'll eat whatever I want, whenever I want, be with whoever I want, whenever I want. I'll do whatever I want. I can't fight the desires. That's option number 1, and that's the majority of the world. It doesn't even have any importance. Do I need to fight my desire or not? I like pastries. I like very good pastries. Go at 4 o'clock in the morning to the mikveh when you have the smell of the rogalach over there. You know, you don't know if you're going to the mikveh or you're going to the bakery. 4 o'clock in the morning is when they bake it. Oh. Sometimes you forget the way to the mikveh. You're saying, what am I going to go now? Ice cold mikveh? Or should I go and get myself a nice, good chocolate croissant? I mean, but you need to know how to control your physical desire. So, option number 1, you let go. I'm not controlling anything. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Echol kefi echoltecha. Eat as much as you can. Ki machar tamut. Because tomorrow you're going to die. Okay, that's the option that most people in the world choose. I don't like this option. Option number 2 is the complete opposite. You become completely separated from the world, like what monks do. I'm going to live in some monastery, no TV, no internet, no women, no nothing. All day long, just me and myself. As once the people would call pushim, separate themselves from the world. Okay. If you think you can do it, go ahead. How many people can do it? 100 people in the entire world, 500 people. You can really sit in a monastery for 20 years and not do anything. If you can do it, go ahead. But that's not the approach of the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell you to separate yourself from the world. The third option is what the Torah says. The Torah says, no, you can't give in to the materialism. You can't separate yourself. You need to rectify and to elevate the materialism. You need to live in the materialistic world and to change the material. Not the material controlling you. You have to control the materialism, whatever it is. You have to control your desires, and by that you are bringing it to a place of redemption. You are rectifying it, you're fixing it. So the Torah comes and tells me, you have to control the world, not the world controlling you. And I said that in the beginning of the class, and probably 500 other times in other classes. When I started to become observant, I understood that if anything will control me, I will not be able to become a slave to God. If a cigarette controls me and tells me when to light it up, or a bottle of whiskey, or whatever it is, I can't be a slave to God. I can't be controlled. I have to control these physical things. I'll tell you quickly a story that I heard, because a lot of people say, okay, in theory, this all makes perfect sense. And many people tell me, I also decided I need to let go from my desires and all sorts of habits and all sorts of addictions. The fact is, it doesn't work so easy. It doesn't come so easy. Some of the habits you can let go, some of the habits or addictions, not so simple to let go. So what do you do? What do you practically do? How do you approach the fact that you have to feed the desire, like I said before? How do you feed the lust? How do you approach it? So I'll tell you quickly a story. Happens to be a real story, but you'll see the point. There was a lady, and she was she was overweight, but in a very, very extreme way. And she went to many different ways, tried to diet, nothing helped. Nothing that she tried helped. One woman that she was referred to told her, I can help you with your addiction, with your weakness, but you have to promise me that you're going to do exactly what I tell you, and you can't break any of my rules. If you're willing to do that, I will help you, and it will help you. Says, okay, deal. So she put her on a certain diet, explained to her what to do, and then the lady says, so what's this condition that you're saying that I must do? She tells her the condition is that when you have the desire to break your diet, you have to call me. You cannot go now and break the diet and then tell me later I couldn't do it. You have to call me on the spot. Okay, sounds pretty simple. Okay. So happens to be that in that community they had a interesting custom. It was very close to the holiday of Shavuot. And that community had a custom that in the shul, after the prayer of Shavuot, they do a big meal that is all dairy, and bringing all these cheesecakes and great pastries and all the pastas and the raviolis and all these great delicious food. And the custom was that every time they would appoint somebody to go and bring it from the bakery, bring it from everything. It happens to be that this year it fell on this lady. You have to go and get everything. Okay, she goes to the bakeries, cheesecakes, all these delicious things. Everything is in the back seat of the car. And happened to be, I don't want to mention too many locations, but it happened to be in a very overly crowded city in North America with a lot of traffic. She's stuck in traffic, and all these delicious cakes are behind her. What do you do? And she's already starting to, okay, I can't take it. I'm going to break now the diet. I have to, open the window so the air will go out. It's too hot. Close the window, sitting in the air conditioning. The cakes are driving her crazy. All these knishes, and she doesn't know what to do. She says, okay, I'll have to call my mentor now. She says to call. So she tells her, listen, I'm stuck in traffic. All these cakes are behind me. I'm about to eat the entire car. So she tells her, listen, trying to tell her what to do, what not to do. And she tells her, listen, you have to break your desire. You have to control your desire. You have to understand that if you don't, you're going to be sorry for it. You're going to break the momentum. She's coaching her. And then she tells her, you have to feed the desire to calm it down. So that lady came up with a brilliant idea. She stops the car wherever it was, ran into a deli, bought a packet of pastrami, said she'akol niya bidvaro, ate the whole pastrami. Now she can't eat the dairy for 6 hours. So she fed the desire in a way that the body understands, oh, I can't eat dairy now. That I understand. I cannot mix meat and dairy. So I'll lock myself up. I'll give the body the desire. Excuse my language. I will shut the body up. Here's a piece of meat. Go at it. Now I can't eat dairy for 6 hours. I'll be out of the traffic by then, give the cakes to the shul and whatever, and finish with it. So, the thing is that you don't give in to the desire, but you have to understand that you have to work with the desire. You have to work around the materialism. You have an issue with your phone. Most people have issues with their phone, right? It doesn't matter what you're looking at your phone right now. It's irrelevant. Most people have an issue with their phone. Either it's TikTok, Facebook, WhatsApp, all this nonsense. Most people are stuck on their phone. I don't know many people that control the phone. that use it as a phone. It's a phone. It's called smartphone. Use it as a phone to call people you need to. But the reality is that most people have a problem with their phone. They're hooked on, it can be a game that you're playing for hours, can be videos that you're watching, these short videos. Now they're making these short videos on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. They all join the clan. It's 8 seconds, 16 seconds, and you... So what would be the solution? Throw the phone, right? Well, that's running away from the problem. That's not overcoming the problem. So you'll break the phone, 2 weeks later you'll buy another phone. My boys were invited to some lecture, some big rabbi came, and the rabbi was teaching them about the Shmirat HaEinayim, guarding the eyes. They're all teenagers. That was the topic of the lecture. And then the rabbi said, anyone who gives me now his smartphone and we smash it in front of the camera, I give you money to buy a kosher phone. Okay, so many of the boys came, like Rav Amnon cuts the ponytails and takes the earrings out. So he says, and they're all smashing the phones in front of the camera, and he gave them all money to buy a smartphone. My boys came, oh, don't ask, this rabbi broke everybody's phones. So I said, it's nice, but so the phone is broken for 2 weeks, then 2 weeks later you go buy a new one. So now you're lost of 3,000 shekels. Maybe some of the kids, it did help. I'm not disqualifying the approach. But I'm just saying, if you throw away your phone, you didn't deal with the problem. You need the phone. Hashem gave us the internet and the phones to elevate them. Now, in many cases, don't think that that's not my approach. In many cases, you can't handle the phone. Don't have a phone. Get a kosher phone. You don't need all this nonsense. You want to check emails? Check it on your computer. Whatever you need to do, you can do on your computer. So in many of the cases, the advice will be, get rid of the phone. But the more smarter approach is, take the phone and elevate it. Use that device for something positive. I came once to a lecture, and it was a very orthodox, Haredi, strict community. They had a bouncer outside checking if you have smartphones. And the joke was that the speaker had a smartphone. The bouncer is like, you can't go in. It's Te'ava. I said, okay, so cancel the event. What do you mean I can't come in? I'm the speaker. So the speaker comes with the phone to the community that the bouncer stops the phones from coming into the hall. So they took it to the Supreme Court, and I was approved that I was able to go into the hall to give the lecture. But later on, they were asking me, you have a smartphone? Shagans. I said, listen, you know what this phone does? In the press of a button, 50,000 people hear Torah. You know how many lives this phone have saved when people send me a message at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're about to put a bullet in their head for whatever reason? The phone can be used for many good things. If you know that you are messing with it and it will be a disaster, then you need to put it in the right hands. But if you know the power of the tool and you use it in a very positive way, then why not? It's like nuclear power. Nuclear power, you can light up a whole city. And you can also wipe off a whole city. So again, the advice is now what I'm talking now general. Every person needs to know what they're dealing with. If I know that I can handle a smartphone because I do many good things with it, that's exactly the approach, and I'm taking it, and I'm taking the chomer, I'm taking the materialism, the physicality, and I'm refining it, I'm elevating it, I'm using it. You know that a few years ago, I came to, not a conclusion, but I was like, I'm closing all my social media accounts. I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to be in all these places. Not that I physically go on these accounts. The accounts are being managed by administrators. But I was like, I don't want to be associated with the name Alon Anava is on Facebook, and I don't want to. For many different reasons. Not Facebook, not Twitter, not everything. And I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but there's something in Torah that is called a she'elat chacham. You know, you have a serious question, you go, Rav, no, I don't bother a rabbi for basic questions. That had to be presented to my rabbi. Am I staying on social media or not? And believe it or not, the answer was of course. Of course you stay. You know how much Torah you put in this place of filth. You know how much light you're spreading on these platforms. You know how many people you divert their attention from junk to the Torah. Of course it's a place of filth. Of course it's a place of te'avot and immodesty, owned by the most evil people possible, with the most evil plans. But that's where you go to. Moshe Rabbeinu did send Paro SMS. Moshe went into Mitzrayim, into Paro. So you have to understand that you have to satisfy the desire. If you choke it, it won't work. In some situations, maybe. But you have to satisfy the desire. Now, this is very dangerous words. Somebody might now take this video, cut it up, and put it on the internet, that I say you have to satisfy your desire. That's what people do. I'm not joking. People take my videos online, they cut it, and they change the message. There's one group of missionaries, they take all my videos, they chop them up, re-edit them, they have a whole channel of me promoting Jesus. Because they just edited everything in the right way. So it's a mouse and cat. They put up a video, we turn to YouTube, they put the video down. You know what a headache it is? And that's the other people just chopping my videos, and the message doesn't sound the same. You move the comma 3 words to the back, changes the message. It's another problem with all these social media. Somebody came not too long ago and told me you were on TikTok. I said, I'm on TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. He's like, there's maybe 500 TikTok accounts on your name. You know how many TikTok's videos are of you? So we went to TikTok, we write Rabbi Alon Anava, Hashem Merachem, thousands of videos of people cutting my video, putting it on TikTok. Okay, so a lot of it is good. And I told him, that's not mine, I don't do that. So now I just said, why am I saying that? Because now I said, you have to satisfy your desire. Now somebody will cut this. Rabbi Anava says, go satisfy your desires. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to quieten your desire. You have to satisfy it in a way that it becomes your slave. Not that it's controlling you, that you're controlling the animal. If you have a beast, you need to know how to control the beast. If not, it will eat you. That's why the first one who did that is Avraham Avinu, vayachvosh et chamoro. Avraham Avinu said, come here. I'm controlling you. You're not going to do whatever you want. I will saddle you. You're under my control, Mr. Donkey. You do what I tell you. I am the boss. You just tag along. That means to overpower the chomer, to overpower the materialism. It exists. It's next to me, but I run the show. I'm the boss. Saying in other words, you have to serve Hashem with the body. All the mitzvot, the body is involved. Well, not all. Most of them. I put tefillin on my hand. I don't put tefillin on in my head. And most of the mitzvot that I do is with something physical. I break bread, I break matzah, I build a sukkah, I shake the lulav. Look at most of the mitzvot, as something physical is involved here. Now the thing is that you have to fix the desire. You don't get rid of the desire. Because if my desire is food and your desire is, I don't know what, movies, I have to fix my desire. My desire is not like yours. Okay, everybody share more or less the same desires. Food, physical pleasures like this and like that. But there's certain desires that we don't see eye to eye. But the point is that I have to fix the desire and not chas v'shalom try to remove it. I have to go down to the desire, like Moshe Rabbeinu goes down to Mitzrayim with his donkey, because the redemption has to be with the materialism. That's why Mashiach comes on a donkey, Moshe Rabbeinu goes down to Mitzrayim with a donkey. Now let's change the word donkey because in Hebrew it's chomer. Moshe Rabbeinu had to take over the materialism. Mashiach is going to be riding on the materialism. We need to take the materialism and elevate it. That's the only way how the Geula comes, the redemption. So I told you, Avraham Avinu, he's the first one who takes control over the donkey. But he doesn't ride it. He just saddles it. And again, the word in English, saddle, is not as profound as the word in Hebrew, vayachvosh. Because the word yachvosh in Hebrew is written with a chet, because it means to saddle. But it sounds identical to the word in Hebrew, vayachvosh, if it's written with a chaf, he conquered. He took control over the materialism. You sit down and you listen to me. I call the shots. But Moshe Rabbeinu already, not only that controls the materialism, he rides on it. He doesn't ride, he puts his wife on it. Saying, in other words, not only that I'm going to cancel out the materialism, I control it completely. I tell it what to do. I ride on it. So he's, so to say, fixing the te'ava, the desire, by how? Putting restrictions. How do you control the desire? It has to be under restrictions, under boundaries. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu says. I will tell you when to stop, when to continue. I put my wife on you. It's not about humiliating his wife. And it's not about that it's not the appropriate transportation. Ignore right now the physical part here. You have to understand that you cannot put your desire on a diet. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. If you're saying, okay, I'm saying putting it on a diet. It means to starve your desire. It's not always the right approach. And again, I'm saying everything with the exception because some people might say, listen, I was able to get rid of my desire by putting it on a diet. From once a day to twice a week, to once a week, to once a month. Okay, maybe. Maybe that approach works to certain people. When I quit smoking, it was cold turkey. Not coming down from 40 cigarettes a day to 30 cigarettes a day. That I tried, it didn't work. When I became observant, I was addicted to everything that exists in the world. I can tell you from my experience, cold turkey, you stop. I mean, and again, I've seen people that it worked other. But when it comes to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, severe things, it's not that you wean it off. You cut. Because if you will, what's the right word? If the word in Hebrew is litmoded, is you not withstand, is you deal with it. When you dealing with the chomer, with the materialism, slowly you're reducing it. You are purifying the body. The point is that you have to lezakech, to purify the materialism. I'm sure you heard many times after classes in the synagogue, we say a certain Mishnah, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, השם חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. We heard that many times. The translation, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל. The master of the universe wanted to give merit to the nation of Israel, therefore he gave them a lot of Torah. We explained that Mishnah many times, but I told you that the Zohar has a different approach. The Zohar says, don't say רצה לזכות, say לזכech. Don't say to give merit, rather to purify and to cleanse. So Hashem gave us a lot of Torah and mitzvot. You fulfill the Torah and mitzvot, it cleanses you. It purifies you. So, if you're looking at the three stages with Avraham, Moshe, and Mashiach, Avraham only chavash et hachamor, only saddled it, only kind of anchored it down. Moshe already rode, not himself, but he put something on the chomer. Mashiach himself is already riding on the chomer, a complete control over materialism. In the term, the Kabbalistic term for that is called itkafia. Itkafia means to control. Itkafia sitra achra. That's what the Zohar says. That I have to control the other side of holiness. And the result is ithabcha chashocha lenahora, that I take the darkness and I transform it into light. This is a term that many Hasidim go by. It's called itkafia. Do itkafia. I want to eat right now, so hold it 2 hours. I want to do something right now. Hold yourself a little bit. Control the desire. I also have desires. Control it. And that can happen in many different things. You need to know how to control your desire. Now, when you know how to control your desire, that's it, kafia. Somebody comes and tells me something juicy, it's on the tip of my tongue just to answer, just to say another juicy detail that I know, but I know it's lashon hara, it's slandering, it's gossiping. I control my mouth. Just wait another minute, wait another hour, wait another 2 days, it will pass. Somebody sent me this sticker. You know how they send these, I don't know if it's called a sticker, I don't know the term to it. They do it on Instagram and Facebook. It's like a picture and some, like a fancy, a meme? I don't know. They have a picture. It can be a picture of a celebrity, a picture of something nice, and it has like a quote. So I get these all the time. Somebody sent me this picture, and it says, a moment of patience saved many moments, a moment of patience not to be angry saved many moments of regret. Genius. Just think about it. Somebody does something to you, you have a moment of patience, you hold back because you will get angry from what that person did, saved you many, many moments of regret later. Oh, why did I do it? Why did I say that? Why did I act like that? That's it, kafia. We're talking about food and other things. This is also a desire. This is also a weakness. This is also a passion. I have to teach the chomer, the materialism, that it's worth serving Hashem. I know it sounds like, well, I'm going to teach the cake now. Yeah. I know it sounds a little bit like, how do you expect me to teach the cookie? It's not about teaching the cookie. It's about educating the chomer, the materialism, it's worth serving Hashem. With any type of manipulation or whatever it is, that's what you need to do. Not so simple, but you have to understand that the redemption itself is to fix the te'ava, the desire. That's why in our generation, the desires are out of control. The internet, an open ocean of information, everything is in the reach of hand. Once if a person wanted to sin, if a man wanted to sin, he had to travel to the other side of the country, to go to a city where nobody recognizes him and to find a woman and to a man within a click of a button. Tinder, Schminder, all these apps. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, with whoever you want. Not that I'm advising you what to do. I'm just telling you that the ta'avot now is completely out of control. Most people have no control over any of their desires. But the redemption itself is to control the desires. You are able to control all your desires, you reach a place of geula, your personal geula. Again, not so simple to do, but it has to be done. Now, how do you do it? Is that, poetic way to say is talk to your body. But the practical way is that you include the body in the desire. You have to, like that woman that gave meat to the body. She gave the body the desire it needed. That's a very smart maneuver. Eat the meat, now you can't eat the dairy. But you have to do it by elevating and purifying your body. If you know how to elevate and purify your body, eventually it will go higher and higher and higher. The body will be more purified, more clean, more cleansed. It will be able to overpower the desires. When I became observant, then I told you, I can only testify on myself. I can't testify on other people. And our sages say, "En chacham kebal hanisayon." A wise person is a person who has a lot of experience. Then I had many weaknesses when I was before becoming observant, and I had to start dealing with everything. And of course, everything was prioritized. This right now I can't deal with. I'm going to deal with this right now. So one of the many things that I had a problem with is how I would speak. Wasn't a nice way. Every second word that came out of my mouth was the A word, this word, that word, the B word, the F word. That's how I would talk. Like a person from the street. It wasn't a nice way to talk. How do you get rid of that? Now one might say, okay, what's the big deal? So I said a few foul words. So I said whatever, the S word, or this word. What's the big deal? It's a big deal. It's not a way to talk. It's not a way to conduct a conversation. And not only that, it was also all sorts of these words. Also, if I would talk to somebody, it would be in ways of, what are you, stupid? That's not how you talk to a person. Even though stupid might not be such a harsh word, you don't talk to a person, what are you, stupid? But that's how I would talk, and I think many people can relate with that because that's how most people talk. How do you get rid of this horrible habit that you start cleaning your speech, that you conduct conversations in a respectful manner, and not every word that comes out of your mouth, it's a curse or some disgusting word? You know, some people, they bang their foot at the table, right away comes out a word. Why you say that word? Right? I'm not going to give you examples of the words that come out of people's mouths. Somebody cut you on the street. You give such curses, you know the mother's profession, you know everything. You curse the person with any disease that exists. The person did a mistake. So, how do you remove that from your vocabulary? So you know what I did? I just didn't speak. I did Taniyot Dibur, fast, speaking fast. Just don't talk. Don't talk for a day. Like they put a kid out of the class for 5 hours or stand in the corner. But you know what? It helped. Because when you're taking the tool that talks and you're purifying it, then eventually the tool itself, the mouth is pure. The mouth is clean. So it doesn't come out, because sometimes you don't control your words. So when I say that you have to purify the body, then if you purify the body, by default, the body becomes clean. You have an issue with food, put it to the test. Eat 3 meals on Shabbat, b'kedusha, with a holy manner, that you wash your hands for bread, and you eat the food, l'shem shamayim, with a right intention, and you say birkat hamazon. Do that for a while, you'll see that the desire that has to do with your mouth, it goes lower and lower and lower. Because the body gets what it wants. You know, I only feed my body yummy things during Shabbat. Because during the week, it's not a sin to eat ice cream. It's not a sin to eat a cookie. But it's a te'ava. It's a desire. There's nothing nutritional in it. Nothing. So it's just a desire. I just want to eat cookies. And I love cookies, don't get me wrong. I like cookies, I like cakes, ice cream, the whole thing. I like everything. But I control myself, and when is it a mitzvah to eat? On Shabbat, it's a mitzvah. Anything you eat on Shabbat, it's a mitzvah. So I educated my kids, you want an ice cream? Shabbat. You want cake? Shabbat. Shabbat, go down, I'll buy you 5 cakes. But it's already in Kedusha. So when you get your body used to that Shabbat is where you get spoiled, the body knows, oh, it's worth serving Hashem. On Shabbat, I'll get my cookie. And like that, I can give you many other examples, but you have to lezakech et haguf, purify and clean the body. Now, where do we see in the Torah that when you take a physical object and you purify it, you elevate it, it becomes holy? So we read recently about the encounter of Avraham Avinu and Eliezer, his servant, in Parashat Chayish Sarah, when Avraham sends Eliezer to get a wife to his son. So he tells him, I want you to go to a certain place and get a certain women. Don't get me women from here and not from Tinder. This is where I want the woman for my son. And his servant tells him, your wish is my command. Avraham Avinu says, I want you to take an oath. I want you to swear. So, what do you swear on? You have to swear on a holy object. So Avraham says something that seems on the surface a little bit inappropriate, and he tells him, put your hand under my thigh. The Torah doesn't specify exactly what he told him to hold, but we know that Avraham Avinu told him, please hold my organ where I just did a Brit Milah. It doesn't sound so nice. But the Brit Milah, Avraham Avinu worked real hard for that. You know what it is to circumcise yourself when you're 100 years old? He penetrated holiness into the physical organ, that the organ became holy. that Avraham Avinu told Eliezer, grab the holy object. Now you want to swear? Swear on the Sefer Torah. Hold the Sefer Torah. Let's see you swearing on the Sefer Torah. You're not allowed to swear. But if already you have to come to a place of Shavuah, of swearing, what do they do in America? They put your hand on the Bible, right? Swear. Not that I'm saying, you know what I'm not saying, but the point is, Avraham Avinu says, listen, this physical organ became holy because I did a mitzvah with it. And now Kedusha, holiness, penetrated into the organ. It's holy. You can grab it. Anything that you do a mitzvah with becomes holy. So if you have an issue with food, a desire for food, do a mitzvah with the food. It will become holy. And you understand already the approach and you take it from there. You have to understand that the purpose of the world is to break the materialism, purify it, and to elevate it. That's the purpose of the world. That's why the world is physical. Prior to the world, there were many spiritual worlds. As we speak, there are many spiritual worlds. But this particular world is called Olam HaChomer, the world of materialism. And the purpose of this world is to break the materialism, purify it, and then elevate it. That's how we bring the redemption. That's why Avraham Avinu took a donkey. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu went down to redeem the nation with a donkey. And that's why Mashiach is going to be the last one riding already on the donkey. And ignore the word donkey. Chamor in Hebrew. Donkey in Hebrew is chamor, is chomer, is materialism. It's all about materialism. That's why, I don't know if you ever thought about it. For 5,700 years of the existence of the world, we didn't see any progressiveness in materialism, only in the last 100 years. And in the last 20 years, completely. How come? For 4,000 years, we rode on horses, plowed the field with the ox, and all these ways that are prehistoric, and suddenly we're flying on airplanes. So for 5,000 years, we rode on donkeys and horses, suddenly we all have cars. Suddenly, within 100 years, the materialism became our life, to a point that if you take any normal human being and put them on a deserted island right now, they don't know how to do anything. I hate to say that. I see my kids. They don't know how to do anything. 40 years passed. I knew as a kid to do everything. Everything, I'm not saying I'm some wonder kid, but I knew basic things. How to plant things in the ground. I mean, in school they taught us, carpentry, everything. Kids right now only know how to do this. In a few years, if you don't have thumbs, you can't do nothing in this world. I teach my kids to do things. They're like, why are you teaching me that? Because one day, you will have to do that. No, I'll call somebody to do it. But that someone also has to know how to do it. And what if you now have to go back to how it originally was? You don't know how to do nothing. So the materialism, you see now it's so enhanced before Mashiach comes, because now is the opportunity to take the materialism, break it completely, purify it and elevate it. And that's how we will reach to redemption. When Mashiach is going to come, technology is going to be 5,000 steps ahead of what we have right now. We now think we're really advanced. Many, many years ago, 20 years ago, they started having a video chat, right? Skype. I would talk to my grandmother at the time. She lived in Australia, I lived in New York. We would talk on Skype. She would put her head in the camera, tapping on the, hey, grandma, relax. It's a video chat. Now my kids, they speak with their grandparents on the video chat 5 times a day. Who had that 30 years ago? We would call, hi, how are you? Everything is okay, bye. Because every minute was $5. Everything okay? Yeah. I used to travel around the world after the army. I would send my parents postcards. Why don't you call? Who has money to call? Send the postcard. We'll arrive after 3 months. I'm alive. Yeah, but that was 3 months ago. Maybe by now you're not alive. So the purpose of this world is to break the materialism, purify it, and elevate it. And we have to understand, we have to see the 3 stages. The first stage, if one needs to put it into practicalities, you have to conquer the body. When you conquer something, you control it. If something controls you, you are a slave to whatever it is. You have to conquer the body. That's why Avraham Avinu, corresponding to the first step, he conquered the donkey. And I told you, Vayachvosh in Hebrew, if you don't read it, if you just say it, if you write it with a chaf, he conquered. Vayachvosh, likvosh. He conquered the donkey. He conquered the materialism. He overpowered the materialism, the body. The second step is purifying the body. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. Moshe already controlled it, but he already put something on it. That's purifying the body. How? That he didn't ride on it. He just controlled it. He started purifying it. He didn't put himself on it. But the last option, corresponding to Mashiach, that's already completely controlling the materialism, and that can only be done by when you're changing your midot. If you change your midot, then you're able to, your natural midot, your desires, your inclinations, your behavior, your character traits, that's when you completely conquer the materialism. You're completely in control. That's why it says the Mashiach is going to be riding on the Chomer, using the materialism for his purposes. Not for the purposes of the materialism, he's completely in control of it. The point that you want to take from this powerful message is that you don't give up the materialism, but you don't give in. In Hebrew, of course, it sounds much, much better. לא מוותרים על החומר, אבל לא מוותרים לחומר. I don't give up the materialism, but I definitely don't give in.